This is an HR program on demand, a living seed capsule of work life and workplace coming live from a rooftop in Stockholm, Sweden. It's me, Ann-Marie Andrich, and
me, Katarina Berg.
A vodcast, if you like, on HR straight across the counter, sponsored by HR The Real Deal, HR by HR for HR. Hello, Katarina.
Hey, Ann-Marie.
Good to be back on the rooftop.
Love to be back on the rooftop with you.
In Stockholm.
In Stockholm.
A very brisk day.
It is another brisk day. I think this winter has really been treating us well.
It has for sure. I thought that we were going to spend some time today on the topic resilience versus anti-fragile.
Good.
What is this something that resonates with you? I know that you've been thinking quite a lot about this and also working with it.
I think it is. I think we've been listening to people talk about resilience, the importance of resilience. What does resilience mean when it comes to leadership? I think all that is important. But there is also, I think, a very fine difference between resilience and anti-fragile. And again, I think that will help us, especially since a lot of people spend a lot of time at work. We know that mental health is a big issue for everybody around the world. It's easy to sometimes tuck it under, the rug and not spend time on it. So I think it's a good topic that you choose.
Yeah,
good for you.
Yeah, good for me, good for us. So why don't we start with sort of, just mapping up what is what. If you were to describe what is describe resilience and grits, what would that be then?
So I would say resilience, usually when you think about that, and to make it quite easy, it's grits for me, right? So, and grits, if you chunk that up by itself, grits is guts, it's resilience, it is initiative, and it's tenacity. And all those things or ingredients are important for you in your day-to-day, in your work life, but also I think in your private life. And what we've seen also for more or less a couple of generations now, that maybe resilience and grits, or the toolbox itself to handle life and go through life, there's a couple of tools missing in that box, right? You can see into the numbers all around the world how many people that are actually needing help when it comes to depression and not necessarily handling things that I think generations before us did not necessarily either talked about, which is a problem by itself, or did not have challenge with in their day-to-days. So I think the whole grits and resilience is important. And then when you zoom in a bit and talk a bit more on the workplace and what that means for you as an employee or as a manager, I think there is a couple of things that we all have to find a way, a bit inspired by both the haikus in Japanese or in life, whereas there's a will, there's a way, but also water will always find a way. And if there is, a stone or a stalk or anything that is, in the way for that path, it will find a way around or through or carve itself, in that direction that it needs to. And here I think us as individuals, people, human being, I think we forgot a bit about that, which means that a lot of people are not feeling as well as they deserve or should. And if you then look into anti-fragile, there is a person, if you haven't read his work, Nassim Taleb, that has been writing a lot about anti-fragile. And I think it's much more delicate, it's much more nuanced, and it's also very helpful. So no matter who you are, if you're a manager or not, if you're an individual, I think there is a couple of things that you can take as big, or guidance or takeaways.
Learnings, maybe.
Right. Yeah. That is better put. Yeah.
Exactly. And and you mentioned Nassim Taleb, obviously a thought leader and a great thinker and a writer on the topic anti-fragile. And I think, as you said, if you have not read his book, it's worth reading. How do you take that, let's say, it's not a movement, but those thoughts on anti-fragile, How do you bring that back? And you mentioned it earlier, but how do you bring that back into the workplace and into the workforce? Is this something that you are elaborating on now at Spotify, and how do you do that?
Just to be a bit clear, then we will step away from his work a bit.
Yes.
So I'm not now saying that this is the definition or this is the right way to interpret his work. But I think what's been guiding me and also parts of the team and the things that we do is to remind ourselves, one, about the differences, and two, what that could actually help us when we design programs and create, I think also those parts of the day or the things now when we're stepping away maybe from coming into the office, be able to help people and support people. The reminders are it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. And what you need to be disciplined by yourself and also where the manager can help and support. Because I think it's if we only say that it's up to the individual to be more resilient or, have grit or even understand what the difference is with anti-fragile or being anti-fragile, I think we are putting even more pressure. I think it's a good reminder though, because why do we feel what we feel today, and why do we have a much harder time to handle the pressure, the stress, and everything that is happening? I think we know why. It's the information overload that comes in, in your week is more than maybe your grandparents had to digest and sort in different boxes for the full life.
Yeah.
It is the way that technology is helping us today, but also sometimes is our biggest enemy in the way that if you're not disciplined, how do you turn it off when you can be connected 24/7
Yep.
and 365? How do you make sure that you are not on screen, or that people can't reach you all the time, or that you are not faced by FOMO, like the fear of missing out, trying to embed yourself everywhere? And let's talk a bit about social media. What does that actually mean, and what does that do to you? How do you manage that? And I think technology, you can't be tech averse. I don't think you can be change averse, but you have to find new ways to be anti-fragile in that way. And that, if you bring that back, and back to your question now, what does that mean then in the workplace? It means everything. You have to start to think about how do you help your people to not break, not to burn out, to face challenges, and also embrace, chaos. In our case, how do you embrace, control chaos? How do you embrace complexity? How do you embrace polarities? And all these three things is actually very much core to who we are at Spotify. We say, it used to be chaos, right? But we now say, welcome to control chaos. And we want to keep it like that. And that means that disruption is part of who we are. That means also that you have to be comfortable with discomfort. And if you put that, on top of what we just talked about, that also means that you need to guide and help people sort things out. But you also have to be very clear and open what it actually means. So that is the control chaos. The second thing that we say, or that is important to us, we always have been not an either or. It's always been both and, right? The polarities. And I think we come to really master that in a very, very cool way. But again, puts a lot of pressure on you as an individual, you as team, but also you as the manager or leader for this. So you have to deal and understand the different ins and out of polarities and make that work for you. And then I think the last piece after that, it's the complexity. we run a very complex business, and most companies have, one business idea. We have had two from the get-go, and then we had first one child called music, and then we added another child, which is podcast, and we also turning from a music company into an audible first company. So what does that mean? How do you dress? How do you make people, stay strong in that, but also enjoy and feel the passion and get energy rather than being tired? All these things you need to. And here, I think going back to that study and also understand that there is a difference and not throw words like you have to show more grit, so resilience is important. What does that actually mean? And how can I, if I were not necessarily 100% born with all that talent, or I didn't get a chance to train that, how with an open mindset can we, and growth mindset, how can we help people dress in a way that they can come and show up? But I think the most important thing is that the very, very holy words of, I don't know, even as a leader. When people come, how do we do this? I don't know yet. Or together we have to figure it out. Or be humble about things that, we don't know. We're just going to launch this now. And the typical A/B testing that we have seen in the tech world, it actually goes for all the other teams too. All the other functions, all the other departments, that you don't necessarily have to launch perfect things from the get-go.
Yeah.
You can change, you can tweak, you can twist. And as long as you open, you have a conversation about it, a dialogue, everybody understands. And then once in a while, vulnerability, right? You show that you don't know. You show that you are tired. You show that you might be knocked down, but you get up on 8. Those are the things that I think everybody needs to think about, and for sure, I know you and I talk about it.
Yes.
I know that most of us are having that kind of, I think, caring and sincere, but also thoughtful kind of part when we design programs or processes or the way that we do things.
Excellent, thank you so much. We're obviously looking forward to Spotify's third child.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned, exactly. Just before we close, which we will do in a few minutes, but just hearing you talk about this, I also know that you spend a lot of time, just as you said, on sort of equipping your managers, but also your people with regards to resilience and being anti-fragile. You also have a team working dedicated on heart and soul, you call it, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So just briefly, I'm sure that we could do another VOD on this particular topic, but
sure.
just as a teaser.
Yeah.
So what does the heart and soul team do, and how does this tie into the anti-fragile that you were mentioning?
I'm glad that you bring it up, but a couple of years ago, with the raging numbers and all the data and the stats about how people actually feel around the world and also in the workplace, we decided that we would dedicate a function to mental fitness or mental health or mental illness, depending on what you would like to label it, and try to really educate ourselves what that means, and understanding that we have a lot of people and everybody will at some stage not be their best version, and that is totally okay not to be okay. And we started we named or we labeled that work Heart and Soul. And there's one person that is not doing anything except for that, and in our organization is Lynn Callas, that is doing a tremendously amazing but also important work. And the way that we have done it is that she today has 38 different ambassadors, Heart and Soul ambassadors all around the world in different functions, different roles in different pockets of the world. And that supports, and they are super brave, and they give their stories, and why that is important is because it needs to be real. It needs to be something that people can relate to, and the one of the pillars is also, and that is where they help us the most, is to take away the stigma in the organization, but also in society at large, right? And this work has only started, and they do amazing things that is super important. And the whole executive team, together with all the employees, are very grateful to them, but also I think we are in awe how they drive that work.
Yeah. Definitely, thank you. Just a small teaser. I think this...
it's a cliffhanger.
It's a cliffhanger for sure, for another VOD, right? Or pod. Okay, so why don't we close it with the 3 things, Katarina, that we typically...
Are we doing the hashtags?
Hashtags,
Okay.
always the hashtags.
So stay strong, stay safe, and stay active.
Ide medalje. Hello, Katarina.
Hej, Ann-Marie.
So nice to have us both. Nej.
So my ego is larger than life. It's so nice to have us both on this rooftop. Coming directly live from Stockholm. Well, it's so good.
It's so freaking nice. Okay.
It's nice to be back. I invited myself and you, my sidekick.